Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be doing our What We've Been Playing series. This is episode 19, and I'm joined by my fabulous co-host. This is Corinn, or the SuperBlondeNerd. What's up, Corinn?
What's up? Hey, nerds, what's up? It's been a while since I've been on here. Just a little
We're so
craziness.
happy to have you back.
Yeah,
This is awesome. So I'm excited to see you've got like a months of games that you can talk about. So I am thrilled to hear what you have been playing.
Yeah. Do we want to dive in?
Sure, let's jump right into it. And
Okay.
once again, if you don't know who Corinn is, she does run her own YouTube channel where she's got a variety of different things she talks about. But I am very interested to hear her opinions on games. It's a very unique perspective as she is playing a lot of new games for the first time and just enjoying this hobby very enthusiastically. So I'm excited to hear what you have. And what have you been playing, Corinn? What is the first game we're talking about?
So the first game we're talking about is a game that my sister and husband-in-law, brother-in-law, husband-in-law, we play together because we have game nights a lot. So it was called Iki. And Iki is a very cool Japanese flavored kind of worker placement. You're building a business and you can hire out different vendors and you can claim different spots around the market. And there are different goals that you want to be able to sell, different wares you want to sell. There's different goals and things that you want to achieve, but there's also fire that you have to be careful of because apparently fires just break out a lot in this game and maybe in the culture. So I think it's 3 rounds, you have to watch where you are placed on the fire track, and that will determine if your vendors get burnt up. And
Oh my goodness.
and you lose your market. That's like it sounds intense, but that's just one element of the game.
Okay.
You're also trying to, like I said, you're selling different wares like fish and sandals and pipes and tobacco. So it's definitely, placed back in more of the older period, like what we would usually think of with like samurais.
Yeah,
And
the Edo period.
yeah. So it's very fun, and each vendor obviously has different worth. You can also retire your vendors so that you're not just stuck with one type of vendor. So every time that a player other than you visits your shop, lands on that space, and uses your vendor for certain perks, whatever you're trying to collect, they move up in the retirement track until eventually you retire those people, and that will earn you points at the end.
Oh, interesting. So it's similar to like Teotihuacan, where as they get older, they get better, but eventually they tap out?
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
because
cool.
each
Awesome.
time that it moves up on the track, there's a little bit more of a bonus you get if you land on that shop. So yeah, so I think it's only 4 players, I think total that you could do, but it's very fun. Lots of interactive pieces and elements that you're going for. The main like scoring is Iki, which I believe, and I could be wrong because I didn't look it up before I came on here, is I think it's like the vibe or the way that, I don't think it's luck, but I think it's like the vibe or how successful your business is, basically.
It's like the chic, like how chic you are, how stylish you are.
Yeah. And so that's tallied in little cherry blossoms.
That's awesome. You get clout points. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And there's
That's great.
different buildings that you can create. But if you build those buildings, they are permanently stuck on whatever place that you put it in your shop. So that is something to like think about, but that's usually happens more towards the end of the game because you are accumulating the resources and the things that you need.
I really like this theme set in the Edo period as it's focusing more on the townsfolk as opposed to like the colonialism, or not the colonialism, but or like the empire, the dynasties that are there. So I think there's a really cool perspective in this historical setting. So I really like this theme. What's another thing you really enjoy about this game? What's your favorite part, or one of your favorite parts?
Well, I would say, like, aesthetic. It's very
Mhm.
all of the things from the art and the seasons, everything goes through you go through spring, fall, summer, winter, and they have certain, fish that come through the certain season, different types of tobacco, like, certain goods that you'll sell that correlate to each season, so that's, like,
Okay.
just another sense of immersiveness. Um yeah, I like that like most games I think that a lot of people enjoy, there are, different ways that you can, accumulate your Iki. So there's many different points of, like, how to obtain victory.
Gotcha. All
Yeah.
right. Would this be one that you recommend that we check out for our library, or does the gameplay is not as strong as the aesthetics? You would say.
No, I think the gameplay is very strong. I would
Okay.
definitely say try it, especially since you, compared it to, like, a couple of other games that you're familiar with.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's our first game for Corinn. This is Iki, a really great setting with an awesome aesthetic, and hopefully you can get your clout up before the end of your time with it.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So my first game that I want to talk about is a recently delivered Kickstarter. It's been like 3
Oh,
years in the
nice.
production, and finally it has arrived. This is Blood
Kickstarters.
on the Clock Tower. So Blood on the Clock Tower is a gigantic social deduction game. It plays from 5 to 20 people, which is insane.
Woo.
And I took it upon myself to learn this beast of a game. Now, the
Yeah.
reason that this is so challenging is it's a bit of a hard one to wrap your head around. You have one player who plays as a narrator. That's what I played as. And it was my
Mhm.
job to make sure I was able to teach the game. I was able to run it smoothly, run it well. But it's a very simple style of social deduction game with a lot of things that can happen. And the biggest challenge, I think, has to be with how I actually had to explain the game. And it was a very much a stumbling time the first time I introduced it because
Mhm.
there's just a lot of information. And when you're not sure how the game itself is actually going to go, even after watching many playthroughs, it's one that you are going to probably stumble on your first play. So what happens is you have this giant grimoire, this book, and this book is going to
Mm.
hold all of these content. It's not only going to show you all of the different characters that all the people who are playing are, but also all of their effects on the right side and the activation order of those effects. Some of the players may have abilities that will affect other players, and so you have to also collect these tokens for each specific piece that's in the game. So the setup on this game is actually pretty annoying. They have these boxes here that do help it out. So you're going to have one for each of the different characters that are potentially in the game, but you do have to go in, find these tokens, sort it, put it in a bag, have all the players. So it does take a bit to actually get going. But once the game hits, it is pretty dang smooth with the gameplay itself. And that's one of the jobs of the narrators to make sure that the game does go smoothly. It's up to you to remind people of effects, to get things running along, to potentially to guide the discussion. I really like there's a piece in the rulebook where the narrator's job is to ensure that the game goes on as long as possible, which I think
Mm.
is really fascinating because you can deliberately give pieces of information based on specific effects, based on which team is winning, which I think is really fascinating. And this is one thing that I want to talk about specifically is one of the mechanisms that's in this game, and this is the poison mechanic. Every single player in this game has a special ability. There's no basic generic townsfolk. You have a good team, an evil team, and the good team is trying to kill the demon. The demon is trying to kill everybody else except one person. When it gets down to just the two, the demon is someone else, the demon team wins. So each player has some cool effect. And one of these effects is poison. And this is so fascinating, so interesting because poison allows you, if somebody poisons someone else, that player's ability no longer works. And this, however, that player still uses their ability. For example, if you poison a character who has the ability to ask if two people are a bad person,
Mm.
then their ability doesn't work, but they don't know that they've been poisoned. So, as the narrator, you must give them information that is incorrect because the thing didn't work. And this is so fascinating because it's up to the narrator to determine the results of the poison and how it affects the situation. This is so interesting and such a great mechanism because not only do the players have the ideas of the potential abilities that the characters can have that are in the pool, but there's also that huge twist of, oh snap, our abilities can possibly not work or be giving us incorrect information. This is a brilliant concept, and I think it's the strongest portion of this game, in my opinion. So I really enjoy this setting, and I think this mechanism is so cool. And it got me thinking, what awesome mechanisms only work with a moderator? For this, the poison, because the narrator has the flexibility to choose what the poison actually does, I think that's incredibly strong. Corinn, have you experienced any games like this that have these mechanisms that only really work with the moderator?
this style and even just like the way that you're talking about this game does make me think of in Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Mhm.
At the end of each kind of round or era, you have someone turns out to be a traitor, or the vessel through which the traitor makes themselves known. So like
Mhm.
you either are like possessed or you just turn evil or you go insane, all those things. So then that's two separate you get two separate basically manuals. You have the good team, the people who aren't the traitor, and then you have the traitor's manual. And both of you look and see how you're supposed to be able to win the end of the game. So I think that's a really again, in the sense of like there's a moderator of like the two different rule books and guides. Like
Mhm.
you don't know exactly what the traitor's goal is. He might be like, you have to kill everybody, or it's you need to reach this room and uh, activate something. So it's definitely a level of kind of what you were saying in the poison. Like you don't know that
Mhm.
something's not working, and so you have to use your intuition and what your manual says to in order to stop the villain from succeeding before you can.
Gotcha. Good example. And if anybody's watching live, please let us know in the comments if
Yeah.
you've experienced any games with awesome mechanisms that really only work with the moderator, or if you're watching after the fact, we'd love to answer some comments about
Mhm.
it. Now, one last thing before I close up on Blood on the Clocktower is my first two runs of it. I really appreciate the group that I was playing with as they let me stumble and really mess up, quite not mess up, but go a little bit more clunky than I normally would. So I really appreciate the group that I was playing with. I do think that going forward, I really need to give specific examples of things that can happen. Because at
Mhm.
the start, you give each player this big sheet, and the sheet has all of the potential powers that can be in it, but the players don't know exactly which characters could show up. So I think that clarifying the abilities of some things, how to press the conversation a bit forward, and maybe give some examples, I think may be helpful for the future. So I really appreciate the team that was working on teaching this game with me or learning this game with me. So
Yeah.
really appreciative, but I'm excited to run this again. We picked up this purple cape that's kind of cultist looking for the next time we play, so I can really get into the storytelling mood.
Mhm.
I'm excited to try more of it. So that is Blood on the Clocktower. Corinn, what's your next game that we're talking about here?
Let me see. I think I'm going to talk about Spirit Island,
Okay.
which I saw that you had, I think, organized it recently, or maybe it was a game you were playing. I
Mhm.
thought that was a very neat. I very much enjoy when it is a collaborative board game. Spirit Island is a collaborative board game where you are different elemental spirits protecting the island from colonialism
Yeah.
of invaders coming from a different land trying to build cities and take over the land. And so there are lots of different spirits that you can be, that each of them have different perks and abilities that will help you stop the invaders from coming in and taking over. And it's very much pandemic in the sense of it's like exponential growth of certain things that can spread, like including blight, which starts in different areas of the land. So I played the lightning. They have really cool names and it seems very like tribal. Like the names are like the darkness within, or the light that blinks, like something very like descriptive. It's not like easily translated.
Lightning
Lightning
Smith
Swift Strike.
Strike.
Yeah, that's great. So that's who I played. Both rounds that we tried to do Spirit Island, because the first round we did not win.
Hmm.
So there's very cool things. There's offensive and defensive cards that you will work with, and you can use a major power or a minor power, and that costs the different elements to be able to do those things. So my specific monster was a lot more of a defensive and like building other monsters up, or not monsters, spirits up, so that they can attack and get rid of invaders and get rid of cities and get rid of um, all of the different things that we were trying to defeat. I really like it's not that they necessarily stuck to a specific theme. It seems very original.
Hmm.
Like, so I enjoyed the different, and you also have the inhabitants, like
The Dahan.
yes, the Dahan, the people who have always lived on the island and who worship the spirits and who respect the spirits. And so those also could help you in pushing out invaders and giving you extra bonuses and things like that. Um, yeah, I'm seeing a couple of pieces that are a little bit different, like the Orbeez and stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm
you can
sure
see that
there's
some people have definitely upgraded their
mm,
copies.
yeah, no, it's, and I think it could definitely have like a meeples kind of thing where you
Mhm.
could definitely do some upgraded pieces, which would be very cool. But overall, I thought it was a very fun, pretty like simple mechanics, and again, collaborative is just a really fun type of gameplay for me.
I think you're totally right. It is very simple to play, but very
Mhm.
complex in the amount of stuff that's happening. You got all the
Yes.
different player powers and different abilities. You're getting these
Mhm.
new power cards and also can potentially chain and get special abilities. There's some awesome spirits, though, even in just that core
Yeah.
box. My
Yeah.
favorite spirit, I think, is well, my favorite from the core box for sure is Ocean's Hungry Grasp. I love the thematics of this one, how you play as the water. So
Yeah.
your reach is pretty limited to where you can actually hit, but you're pulling people into the ocean and you can use the people
Hmm.
you drown as resources. It's
Yeah.
so cool. I
Yeah.
love it. It's so awesome. Any other standout spirits when you played?
What was my, because my one of my friends played the ocean, and that was
Okay.
really good.
So cool.
And then
Anybody the rock person?
no, my husband played the like nightmare fear based
Oh, this one here.
yes,
Bringer
dreams
of
and nightmares.
dreams and
Yeah,
nightmares.
so that one was helpful in certain aspects, definitely like a different like offensive point than just being
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm going, because that was his, I guess not flaw, but like his prerequisite is that he actually can't get rid of any pieces.
Hmm.
He just moves them, which will help like the ocean or something
Yeah.
take all the
Really good combo,
pieces.
actually.
Yeah. So we had that. I can't remember what my friend was. My other friend was, I think she was um the forest.
Okay.
The forest? Trees?
The
Might be
trees.
wrong.
Forest.
I don't think it was the
This
rock
one?
person.
Spread of
Mm,
Rampant Green?
it might have been that one.
Or Forbidden Wilds?
I think it was the spread of rampant green
Okay.
because I don't remember the
Oh, your
Forbidden
team
Wild.
was a powerhouse. Holy cow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which was very helpful for me because I was a powerhouse in the sense of like giving them powers,
Hmm.
speed up different abilities so that it's not the turtle speed, but
Yep, the
the
fast.
rapid,
Fast.
the fast one, whatever the fast one is. Yeah, no, it's a very cool. Like I said, all of the different spirits, all the like you were saying, different combos really help to defeat and help win the game a lot better, and then some combos.
Sweet. So that is Spirit Island. Anything else to add before we wrap up on this one?
Nope.
Okay, no worries. Awesome. So that brings us to my second game to talk about. And this is one of my favorite games ever. A new piece of content finally delivered for it. I've been starved for more because I'm playing a heck of a lot of this. And this is Too Many Bones. Too Many Bones is a gigantic adventure game where you are
Mm.
basically playing a mini RPG, building up your skills, getting a lot of dice, and doing so with these awesome, unique gear locks with their own skill trees on their own personal battle mats. Now, recently, the newest expansion came out, and this is called the Automaton of Shale. And this is one of the coolest experiences I've had in a board game in a long time, because not only is the presentation crazy and interesting, but the gameplay experience is also extremely cool. Now, I want to show you what this is because I think we should just look at it on camera here. And this in particular is it's a pop-up book adventure. And the way it works is you open up the box here, and inside you've got this nice magnetic clasp, and the book is pop-ups. Now, if you don't want to see any spoilers, I'll just show the first 2 pages because I don't want to share a lot of the big information.
Sure.
But the book itself, it pops up, and you'll have these different flaps. You'll have these event cards that you can actually see here. And they'll be inside of these boxes right here in these little flaps. I won't open it
Yeah.
up or read anything, but then you have these bones that you'll actually be pulling, and you'll be able to modify the things, the adventures, and it takes you through basically this poetry that's going to take you from event to event. And you have to resolve all of the encounter cards on a specific page before you can move on to the next page. Normally in Too Many Bones, you have a encounter deck that you'll randomly shuffle up, but when you play the Automaton of Shale, it actually has a set path that you'll take, a set amount of encounter cards that you'll be using, and different challenges that they kind of thought ahead before in order to give you a unique experience. And I really appreciated that in particular. So when you turn to the next page, it's going to have a giant creature that's going to come out. You've got your campfire there. You have chips that are going to be inside right here that are going to be maybe new monsters or new characters. You'll have any cards that come in here that are like loot or items you'll put onto the top of their respective decks, so that way you draw them immediately, so you're automatically getting new content. And the book is so cool. Oh, that's so awesome. And so when you open it up, it pops out. You've got this new thing, new story adventure that you're going to be looking at and reading. And I'm really impressed with this. We had a party of 4 play through it for the first time, so we were all going in blind, and we barely won. We had an excellent team. We had Stanza, who's the bard. That's who I played as. I was complete support, which was awesome. I only upgraded my dexterity and health, as well as had almost my full board of skills. And then we had a player who was the Nugget, the treasure hunter, which was really interesting. They were able to get lots of the new items that were introduced in this expansion. And then we had, what was Ariana playing? Ariana was playing as... Oh, she was playing as Boomer, so she was the long-range bomb maker, so she could destroy lots of people from a distance, and she was pivotal to actually winning the entire game. And then our last player was Gasket, which is this giant mech, which is also pretty pivotal. They were playing the more tank role, soaking up all of the status conditions. So we had Nugget as kind of a flex, doing lots of big damage and lots of interesting things with the loot. Ariana playing as the big damage, huge area effect bombs with her creations. And then I played as big support to the party, and then we had the tank character as Gasket. And one of the coolest things, as I mentioned before, where the characters itself, the book itself had a set path for us. And one of the first cards in here, I am going to give a brief spoiler, gave us an option to make it so that our first 4 days of upgrades could not be skill upgrades. Whenever you upgrade in Too Many Bones, you have a choice between getting a new dice that gives you a special power, but normally you can only use it once per battle. The other options are you can get generic attack dice, which always do damage, generic defense dice, which you can bulk up on defense. You get more health chips to boost up your character, or you can get dexterity, which allows you to draw more dice. So we chose the option where we got more training points, which give us more upgrades, but we could not upgrade our basic skills. So no attack, no defense, none of that, which meant that right off the bat, all of our characters had a bunch of these unique, interesting abilities, but we had more of them. So that pushed us into a really unique way of playing the game. And it was incredible. So there was a lot of great moments, particularly in the last fight. I pushed for like a big sacrifice play where I took like essentially 15 damage in a single turn, but it pushed it so that all the other characters could stay alive. Ariana did like 15 damage in a single turn with her explosions. And then Natalie was able to do the final blow with one of her huge hits. Oh, it was brilliant. It was perfect. I really enjoyed it overall. And this is such a cool presentation. The idea of a pop-up book. It started off as an April Fool's joke, but it was there for pre-order the April Fool's Day. So amazing. So my question to you is, what is the most creative presentation for a game you've encountered, and has it been a success? For me, huge success. I don't know how often I'm going to play the book itself, but the encounters and just this experience is one that I'm going to remember for a long time. And I think this will be a really cool experience for people who are maybe just trying Too Many Bones for the first time, as it's something they can ease into, and it's fed, it's planned to make a really cool, interesting experience. So Too Many Bones, Automaton of Shale. Corinn, what's the most creative presentation for a game you've encountered, or maybe one you've encountered recently that you've been impressed with?
I can't say anything new that probably isn't already known to people, like Tainted Grail or Gloomhaven or even Photosynthesis.
Yeah.
It made me think of Photosynthesis with the pop-up kind of 3D style of being able to place your trees and have the different sizes and stuff. So that's a really cool option, as well as like Gloomhaven having all of your encounters and landscapes and everything like inside of a notebook, as well as just all the interactive things to unbox and unlock. And all of that. That's so cool. I've never heard of a game with a pop-up book kind of presentation. So that's super cool. And they're definitely doing something innovative, at least in my book.
And the fact that it works is the thing that surprises me the
Yeah.
most. And not only is it fun and gimmicky, but the story and the encounter choices are also excellent. Uh,
Yeah. That's
Giving
so
you the
cool.
ability to be creative in your choice and your level up and your characters, still providing interesting options for each of them,
Mhm.
and also integrating all of the expansion content, allowing you to use your Too Many Bones collection, but also not requiring it. So I just think that this is such a smart choice, and
Yeah.
it still retains that great skill tree mechanism that I think makes Too Many Bones so incredible. And I think that if you haven't tried this one, you do need to give it a shot, Corinne. If you
Oh
get an
yeah.
opportunity at like a con, or if you meet somebody that does
That's
have it,
so
it's a pretty hefty
cool.
price tag, but the game
Okay.
is incredible.
The pop-up book or just Too Many Bones, like the general game?
Both. If you
Okay.
could, if you can do both, do both. They're
Nice.
both amazing. So once again,
Yeah.
let me know down in the comments below, what is the game that you've encountered that has a creative presentation or an
Yes.
awesome presentation? We'd love to hear.
Please.
All
Please.
right, Corinne, your last game for today. What are we talking about?
I'm deciding between two because I know that you've organized Great Western Trail. We talked about that a little bit.
Mhm.
Which that game is very good, but I can't remember if I talked about it last time we were talking. So I'm going to say and bring up Viticulture because that was one of
Ooh,
the
okay.
games that was recommended to me on one of my aesthetically pleasing games. So I always love to be able to talk about, hey, like I've been able to try one of the aesthetic games that you guys are talking about. Now, we just played the base game, Viticulture, not with, I know that there is like an additional like expansion or something to
Mhm.
add to the gameplay of Viticulture, which I've heard makes it even better.
Yes.
So I am definitely wanting to play that. But I really did enjoy the initial gameplay of Viticulture and all of the different things that you had to do in order to make wine and sell it. It's very much what is it? Like seasonal game where you have the different seasons that you can only be able to do certain tasks
Mhm.
or things in order to move on to the next part. And everyone moves at, I think, like a different pace. Um, I'm not sure if it was a house rule that we did where everyone tries to stay on the same season, but I think everyone can work at a different season. I might be wrong on that because we played it once.
So
Uh,
when you play this one, everybody plays in the first season until they
mhm.
pass, and then once all players have
Yes.
passed, whoever has remaining workers can play in the second season with those remaining
Yes.
workers. Mhm.
Yes. That's how we did it. I don't know if that's
That's correct.
okay.
You did it.
Yay! Yeah, sometimes that doesn't happen. We play wrong
I
for
understand.
many times.
I have a whole series about it.
Yes. Yeah, so I love the different like abilities that you can do,
Mhm.
how I can't think of what they're called, the yellow and blue cards,
The
like
visitor
the
cards.
visitors.
Mhm.
Visitors are super helpful.
Oh yeah.
I definitely wasn't using them in the beginning, and then everyone else was like playing them down. I was like, dang, I need to be using these guys. So they have just like little bonuses or abilities that you can do. Like I did get one, so we must have played it twice because the second time that I played, I used the visitors, and one of those abilities was being able to go back into a season and doing it,
Woo-hoo, powerful.
yeah, and be able to do like an ability that you could do in the season
Yes, the
that you're
visitor
not currently
cards
in.
are honestly the most controversial point of this whole game because they are
Oh,
pretty make it or break it. Some of these visitors can
sure.
just win you the game single-handedly by just
Mm,
giving you so much advantage
mm,
or allowing you to kind of group action, so getting just more turns than other people.
mm.
And some of them are absolute duds. So you'll draw a visitor card and be like,
Gotcha.
God, this card sucks. I'm gonna lose now.
Yeah.
So
So does
it's
the
interesting.
expansion kind of help mitigate that a little bit better?
I think the cooperative expansion does. So the
Okay.
cooperative expansion is really cool because you are now, after drawing cards, you as a team will talk about who needs
Mm,
to play their busted card and whose card is the most
yeah.
busted. And it's great because you're cooperating, coordinating these powerful abilities as
Mhm.
opposed to feeling great when you or feeling like you're, oh, this card's so good, I'm gonna win, or
Yeah.
feeling like you're being cheated almost by not getting
Mhm.
such a great card. So I think the cooperative expansion with these visitors is amazing because you have that
Nice.
cooperation and coordination.
Gotcha. Yeah, so many buildings to build, worker placement, all of those aspects. Again, like a more technical,
Hmm.
not easy to pick up, but there's still a lot of technical aspects to it where
Hmm.
you might feel a little overwhelmed if you're not really sure where to start.
So is this one that you'd be excited to play more of? Are you interested
Oh,
in the
yes.
expansion?
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely want to experience both, I guess, the cooperative, which I didn't even know is a cooperative, as well as just the expansion, because I've heard that gameplay is better. Now
So
that
this
I
this
understand it a little
picture
bit
that
better.
we're seeing right
Mhm.
now is the original expansion. This is called Tuscany. And this
Okay.
expansion offers a season board that instead of just having the yellow and blue, it has 4 distinct seasons. And that's like the
Right.
biggest draw here is now
Okay.
not only do you have those 2 halves to pick of, but you have 4 distinct seasons that you're now fighting in. And you'll have 4 different bonuses on the wake up chart as well as different actions that are stuck in those seasons. So just with that card that you mentioned before, where you can go back
Mhm.
into a previous season and use an action, just makes things like that more
Yeah.
interesting, more choices, but also
Yes.
more logical. It's a 4 season for a year. It just makes sense. So I think this is really, really good. And if you like Viticulture and you know how to play, a lot of the times I'll use this to teach the game just because it makes sense for more
Mhm.
people, which I think is great. And they're getting more bonuses overall. So
Nice.
this is one that I do recommend.
Yeah,
But
that's very cool.
that cooperative expansion though is my favorite way to play Viticulture, and so that is, if you like cooperative style
Yeah.
games, that is my favorite. So I think it's really good.
Very cool. Yes. Yes.
And what do you think about the wine making mechanism in general? The moving of the grapes and the wine and the aging. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I felt like there was something. Oh, it was you could only use whatever like gem droplet on your wine and then push it over to make it, but you couldn't use like uh what is I'm trying to use words. You couldn't use like excess
Oh,
of
okay.
whatever you
Hmm.
have. I think that would be my only. I get it because I think again that maybe that would make it broken if
Yeah,
you could
maybe
use the
mechanically.
access. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but it also at the same time I was like, man, if I have like 9 red wine, but I only have cards to make like a 6 or something, it
Hmm.
stinks because you can't use that 3 red that you have left.
I do think it makes thematic sense because when you make the wine, you're putting it in like a wine bottle, essentially. And
Yes.
so if
Yeah.
you're giving somebody a wine, you can't be like, oh, let me get like 3 drops of that wine to give this
Yeah.
other person. So it makes sense to me thematically. You're giving them that bottle, and the bottle
Mhm.
just happens to be better. But I can totally give it. It feels bad to give somebody like this thing that was amazing that you worked really hard on and you've aged for years, and you're only getting
Yeah.
2 residual payment for it. Garbage.
Yes. Yeah, seriously. And
Any
like
other
all
thoughts
I
on
do like
viticulture? Oh, go
I
for it.
do like the I guess in the mechanic of the wine making
Mhm.
of using like the rosé, having
Yeah,
how
mhm,
that works, the combinations of that to make the different type of wine. So
gotcha.
I do enjoy that. I am a wine girl myself, so I enjoy
Oh. See, I think
it.
most of my wine knowledge comes from this game.
Yeah.
Corinne and I
Oh
are
yeah.
not big
I'm
drinkers, so I feel
I'm
like,
not.
I'm so cultured because I know this thing that I don't really partake in that much.
No, I just am like I enjoy a glass here and there, not even like a bottle.
Awesome. Well, I hope you get a chance to play it again, and
Yes.
this time get some incredible visitor cards.
Yes, and cooperative and all that sounds really fun.
Give it a try. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really, especially if you've played the game a couple of times, it's going to
Yes.
make you think differently about it. So
Always.
big fan of the cooperative version. Sweet. So that is Viticulture. Great, great pick, Corinne. All right, this brings us to my last game, and our last game that we'll be talking about on here exclusively, I guess in like a big version. This is a Awaken Realms game that I had been curious to play for a long time. It's
Mhm.
one that I late pledged recently on their reprint campaign because I wanted to give it a try before I went all in. Normally with Awaken Realms, their production is incredible, so
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure that the gameplay was also great before I backed it all in and got the sun drop. So wanted to make sure the game was good. And this game is The Great Wall. Wall. The Great
Mm.
Wall has you playing as these leaders of Chinese soldiers as well as craftsmen and merchants, and you are going to be fortifying the Great Wall in this tower defense themed game where you have these invaders coming in. So there's a lot of different things you can do when it comes to creating these fortifications by sending out soldiers to actually attack the different characters that are on the wall, and you're going to be placing them in worker placement spots to do so. So the gameplay is actually centered around these action cards. You'll have an action card that you play, and that allows you to deploy a certain number of units onto the board, and also usually get a bonus of some sort. You'll play these in a line, as you can see on the bottom here, and whoever is first is going to resolve their card top to bottom. You'll get to do something, and generally everybody else will get to do something based on the card that you pick. There's a cool prediction aspect in this game where if I play the hard working card or something like that, then if anybody has played the overseer card, or I don't know the names of them, but if you play a card and someone else has played a card of a specific type, you get a bonus on your card. So it does matter what other people are playing, and you're trying to predict based on their position, the cards, the resources they have, what they may be playing. You can get some great bonuses by predicting. They're very minor, but they do add up, especially in the early portions of the game. And before you choose that action card, you either have the option of recalling all of your cards back, or you can gain points instead if you decide to play a new card. So the action system, I think, is really neat by playing the cards and using them to place out these workers on the board. Now, the workers allow you to get resources. You can use those resources to hire soldiers, which will go out and fight. You can build the wall, or you can get new powers and abilities through the use of these advisor cards on the bottom here. And that's my big thing that I want to talk about here is the advisors and just how powerful I was when I played this game and how much I ran away with it because of the brokenness of this card that I was playing. Now, I don't even know if it's broken. This is the first time I ever played this game. We all were playing it for the first time, played a friend's copy who learned it and taught it to us, and I ended the game with about 100 more points than every other player. So I lapped everybody else at the table. And so my question to everybody watching is, what game have you played recently where you felt way too strong? And in this case, the card that I took, I don't remember his name. He's in a card that was your starting character, and the ability of the character was whenever I created soldiers or I hired soldiers, I paid a number of resources less based on the number of upgrades that I had on my character. So whenever you get a character upgrade, you can either upgrade to get a new ability, or you can put the card face down to increase the ability of your main character. So you start the game with one face down already. So all I did was first action, I bought a card to go under my card. And now all of a sudden, anytime I built a soldier, it was 4 resources less. Well, the amount of resources required to make a character is between 3 and 4. So every turn, I was able to generate a character for free, basically. If you're the only person who does this, you get a bit of a negative bonus, but the reason it doesn't matter if you are perpetuating and just propelling forward with this unstoppable momentum. You're the only one creating a ridiculous amount of soldiers for free, which means you're the only person that's able to assign all those soldiers you made for free to these enemies to get even more bonuses. And because you're doing that, you're generating points and getting all these advantages. You're able to play these battle cards that you only use when you're in fights. And all of a sudden, this entire portion of the game was something I was able to exploit. And in addition, I was able to completely ignore another portion of the game. One of the big things of this game is the resource production. On the bottom here, there are these tracks that you'll be putting a lot of workers, and they only will pay out if they're completely full. Because I didn't need resources because my stuff was free, everybody else had to put way more people onto these resource tracks. It was pretty annoying because I was doing my own thing with this entire other half of the game while everybody else was still stuck in the Stone Age. It was insane. I felt like when it comes to these big Kickstarter games, sometimes the games are not play tested completely thoroughly. And that is the case, particularly I'm like thinking things like Zombicide, things like this, where some characters are just blatantly strong. But in the cooperative sense, you can scale the game so that it's fine. Like you can just play a bunch of really difficult minions and it's cooperative. So if you're great, everybody's having a great time. But when it comes to a competitive game like this, it can be pretty debilitating for not just you, but everybody else. So, I don't know if this is going to be one that I do play, that we do get for the library. It reminds me a lot of other games, actually. Perseverance, Castaway Chronicles is very similar to this with the way that you're building up defenses and seeing how it all resolves. And so I don't know if this is necessarily one that needs to enter our library, but one that I had been curious to try. And I'm glad I played it. There are some interesting ideas, but it just felt like if you got a good ability, there was just nothing that was going to stop you. It was very hard because there's no direct interaction and not a lot of take that in this game. There's competition towards action spaces, but not a lot somebody could do to stop you. So unfortunately, yeah, just felt way too strong. What about you, Corinn? Any questions on this game? Any experiences that you've had where you've just felt way too strong? I'd love to hear what your thoughts.
Did it seem like that was the only card that was super powerful, or just because of this instance that was like?
I think it was blatantly overpowered compared to the other players'
Okay.
abilities, particularly because it was useful from turn 1. Like I could
Gotcha.
immediately get an effect off. And there
Gotcha.
is a bit of mitigation supposed to offset what
Mhm.
you start with. Each of these characters starts off with a starting resources, their
Mhm.
starting ability, and then a random character that they're going to start off with that nobody else that gives them a special ability. But they also have a tea party rating. Now you'll see it on here. It's like this little teapot on the bottom. This
Mhm.
determines your starting turn order. And
Okay.
it only happens once. So I don't think it's a huge thing. It is obviously nice to go first in a game that has abilities that are first come, first serve, but I don't think it's enough to stop just the clear power
Sure.
that my character had.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would say experience-wise and in a sense of like feeling super powerful is very similar to playing Tapestry.
Yes. Oh
Because
my gosh. Yes.
there are a lot of different civilizations that just one up if you start. It's like if you give it randomly and you get one certain civilization versus someone else's. It has been nice though because they are working to remedy that at least on I think the main website or whatever forum we use, basically with updated rules on each of the civilizations to help depower the ones that are OP and then help upgrade the ones that don't do as well. Because there have definitely been instances on both sides of my husband and I where we have pwned each other, killed each other like over 100 to 200 point difference.
It's insane. Like, and
Yeah.
the fixes for these, one of them was like, oh, for every player in the game, get 45 extra points. Like, you suck that much that you need
Yeah.
an extra 100. It's ridiculous. An extra
Yeah.
135 points just because you're gonna get wrecked. So I
Yes.
think that's hilarious. Personally, I think it's so funny.
I mean, I'm glad that they, saw that how broken it was and were like, "Here, we're so sorry. Please remedy this by giving this much extra points, so you
That
have a fighting chance."
and in tandem with the tapestry cards themselves, like the
Yes.
tapestry cards, you can sometimes get a tapestry card like your opening hand that's like, if you play this, you get 3 points. Woo! And then other players have a card that's like, hey, this round, every time you fight, you get double the rewards, or like
Mhm.
clearly ridiculously strong, particularly in the early portions of the game. Or if
Yes.
you wait to play it later, it might be so powerful in the last round because of this army you've amassed. So in tandem with those civilizations, the tapestry games are insane.
Yes. Yeah. You can really stack it up.
Oh my goodness. Yes,
Well,
totally agree.
when we were playing it originally and saw that like 300 was a good point, like a good
Mhm.
score, we were like, "How on earth did they get there?" And now we're like, oh, "Okay, yeah, definitely could get there." In a good game,
That's
almost 400. So, but yeah,
that's hilarious. Yeah,
yeah,
you're totally on point. And I think realistically, that's why my rating is a 6 here, because
okay,
I do like this game. This game is one that I
mhm,
will pull out occasionally. It's fun
mhm.
to do all these broken things, but it's not a game where like it's clearly going to be one-sided as you play. And
Mhm.
it can be kind of unfortunate when that happens and you're on the receiving end and you're just like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna lose, obviously. But yeah, I
Oh,
do think it is a fun time climbing up the tracks and seeing what kind of combos you can do.
there are times where my husband is has so many more moves, and I'm done. Like I've done my last income
Yeah,
turn,
yeah.
and I'm just like, I'm gonna go fix the sandwich. Let me know when you're done. Not really gonna find out who wins because I already know who wins.
Understandable. Another game that comes to mind with a clearly broken ability is things in Marvel Champions, actually. There's some
Mm,
characters who are just blatantly ridiculously strong. They're so
that
cost
would make
effective.
sense.
For example, Captain America is crazy good. He's really easy to play, but also really, really strong. Like he can, for a single card, do
Mhm.
basically whatever he needs to, which is wildly powerful. But I love that it's cooperative because you can scale the difficulty to match the strength of the characters. Another popular one is Doctor Strange, who's just has ways that you can, he has this like small deck of spell cards that are just really efficient, and you can cycle through almost every card if you're playing certain builds. Like I think there's some protection and leadership builds that work really well with just making sure that you're basically able to use every single weapon at your disposal at any time. But the game allows you to scale the difficulty as much as you like to make it still a great challenge to play these crazy powerful characters. So I really like that that's a thing.
Nice.
So good choice on Tapestry. And yeah, unfortunately, I think that's going to make Great Wall one that's not going to enter the library because it has that issue with also having a bit of a challenge to learning and understanding the relationships between things. I do think the game itself is actually extremely easy to play and learn once you see just how like a round works. But my friend Mike was the one who taught us, and he was saying that the rulebook was a nightmare. So apparently that's something that changed in the second edition, and I wouldn't have to have that issue because I know how to play now. So I think it would be a pretty easy teach, but I think Perseverance will fill this spot in our library personally. And I think that that one's a bit more vetted when it comes to the balancing natures. In particular, the second game has a giant tech tree board that every player has access to. So there's no chance of, I guess not necessarily a chance of unbalanced powers and abilities, but the players get to choose which powers and abilities that they want from the same options. But you can really go through specific routes based on the scoring criteria that you want to go through.
Gotcha.
So pretty cool. I really like the presentation of the Great Wall, but not one that's going to be entering our library, I don't think. So that's it. Those are the games that we've been playing recently. Corinn, do you want to list off all of the games that you've been playing?
Sure.
Go for it.
Great Western Trail, Dune Imperium, Enish, Viticulture, Sushi Roll, Tapestry, Yahtzee, Root, Spirit Island, Iki, Citadels.
Holy cow, you got some awesome games in there. I want to pick your brain on Inish later.
Okay.
That's a cool one. I really like that, the art style in that game, and it's such an interesting game. I really like that one. All right, here goes my list. We've got Wonderland's War, Quacks of Quedlinburg, Crokinole, Perseverance, Castaway Chronicles, Clans of Caledonia, Strike, Dice Realms, The Great Wall, Hallertau, Ganz, Schon Clever, Marvel Champions, Blitzkrieg, Dopplet So Clever, Air, Land, and Sea, Age of Steam, Bohnanza, Coimbra, Unmatched, Port Royal, Too Many Bones, Hadrian's Wall, Blood on the Clocktower, Tokyo Game Show, Splendor, Cryptid, Project Elite, and Rove. So a big spread of games, but some awesome, some really, really good games between our two lists. Good stuff. Spirit Island, Root. I'm kind of jealous on your end that I did get to play those this last week. So pretty awesome. Excellent. Any other final thoughts or anything you want to add before we close off today?
Thanks for having me back. Excited to play more games.
Oh, heck yes. Super excited. And thanks again for joining me today for what we've been playing. Any games that you're excited to play that's on your docket that you're interested in?
Frosthaven.
I don't know when that'll be here.
I know.
Yeah.
One day.
Soon, hopefully. Yeah. So we just received, like right before this, got the miniatures for Oathsworn in, so I get to start playing that very soon. I'm so excited. We got the mystery boxes in, and then we also got the new hero packs from Marvel Champions, Spider-Ham, and Spider. So with Penny Parker, I'm so thrilled. I cannot wait. So I don't mean to be rude, but I'm ready to close this stream.
Yeah, totally.
Once again, if you haven't checked out Corinn's channel, please go check out SuperBlondeNerd over on YouTube. The links are in the description of the video. Go check out her YouTube channel. Variety of things. Any projects that are coming up on your channel, Corinn, that you want to share with us?
I do have a couple of hopefully ongoing series, so that will more likely ensure content to continue on. Had to play a little bit of catch up after both my husband and I got sick, and then we moved. So you can expect more content to be coming, just getting more into nerdy things, more board game exploration. So yeah, just stay tuned for all of the nerdy stuff.
And we see that you have your board game collection update, so that's always exciting. So the 2022 version, and this is in your new place, yes?
Yes.
So cool. So we get to see your completely new layout. Awesome.
That was like the first thing that we set up was our board game collection.
I totally get it. We had Yes, I completely understand. Completely understand. So that's everything. That's what we've been playing. Once again, please let me know what you thought about these games, all the questions that we asked, and just want to know your opinions and what you've been playing. So this has been Mackenzie. Thank you so much for watching.
This is Corinn,
And
aka
SideGame Strong.
SuperBlondeNerd and SideGame Strong.
Adios. Bye.